All right, what's up, guys? Let's see. The Daily Beat series was on pause because it was my birthday last week, and as some of you who follow my skate channel might have seen, I decided to make a video part over the course of like 28 days. And so I did make one beat last week, which was in the short video that I posted yesterday, kind of funneling people over to see that video part, but I was not focused on making beats. I was skating, had a little toe injury that I had to skate through to finish the part too, but the part came out great and I'm hyped on it, and I'm hyped that I spent the time on it. It was like a great birthday present to myself to prove that at 40 years old I could still skate at that level and deliver a project that quickly. So I'm satisfied, and now I'm back to making beats. So yesterday, it's funny because I had the idea of this a couple nights ago to make this video. And then I saw that Bolo made a video yesterday on how you don't need an expensive interface, right? And my idea was to make a video just showing people that really all you need is the MPC. Now, right now I'm using the MPC as well as the Tascam Model 12. I got a microphone over here, but you know, I haven't had this setup on in a while. I've actually been making most of the videos on this channel just using a Bluetooth speaker and the MPC, some instruments. Today, I got the default trap kit that opens up with your MPC when you open up a new project today. And I'm just going to show you guys that all you need is the MPC. Like, you don't need anything else. I know I make music with a lot of other things, but I play instruments, and that's my primary way of expressing myself. But if you've never made music before, and you want to get into it, and you have the budget, one of these is all you need. You pick this up, and you can get going. And you can create some interesting sounds. You can warp everything. So let's get started. I got a patch, 120 BPM. It's 2 bars. I'm just going to make a simple pattern. All right. All right, we got that laid down. All right, there's nothing else on this trap kit, so I'm gonna create another track. We're gonna create a plug-in track, and I need a bass, so I guess I can use this tube synth. Let's go into the patches. Let's find a bass. I don't like that. Nope. Too many effects on these basses. do I mess with this? Okay, we're here, we're in major. I just want this in chromatic. Yeah, I don't like to have it in scales. I know some people work with scales. I'm a guitar and a bass player, and I do minimal keyboard stuff, so I just want to play chromatically. I don't know if I like this patch, but all right, I'm just gonna run with it for now. Yeah, why not? Cool, and we'll go in and we're gonna name this bass just so that we remember later on. The first track's pretty much always drums, so I don't always label that one. Now we can create another track. Let me get rid of that real quick. Create another track, another plug-in track, and definitely don't want to use the tube synth. I'm going to use the Jura, which is like my favorite plug-in here. That's actually a better bass, but we're already here, so. Let's see. Yeah, that's what I want. That works. All right, we're gonna name this one Jura. It really is my favorite synth in here. And you guys know that the Jura synth is based on the Juno. And the Juno is, you know, one of those awesome 80s synthesizers. There's so many different versions of it. Audio Kit's coming out with a version of it. They teased it. If you guys don't know, Audio Kit makes amazing iOS synths. And I have like all of them. Okay, so we have this pattern here. And now we're going to get into the purpose of this video, which is really to show you guys that you don't need anything other than the MPC for your sounds and everything like that. So the Jura's pulled up, and I'm going to go in here to the channel strip, which these channel strips have in the channel strip for whatever track you're working on right here on this front page, it's a game changer for the MPC workflow. The way you had to do it before, you had to access that separately, and this just makes it so much quicker. I can access my effects. I can set up the input and output for the channel. I can access the synths and the volume of the synths here. It's just a game changer. It works, similarly to how Logic works. Like when I'm working in Logic, I hit X and the mixer comes right up and then boom, it's right there. I hit X again and it's gone. Real simple. This, I tap this, it's open. So if you guys aren't using 3.0, I know there's a few issues with it, but I haven't encountered any type of glitches or issues as far as my workflow is concerned. So if you work similarly to how I do, there's no issue. Go ahead and do it. And you could take my word for it. I don't have any affiliation with Akai. So yeah, let's make this sound sexy. So I'm gonna solo the Jura, pull up some effects. Little bit of compression there. It's barely audible, but I can hear it in my microphone. It's just working on those transits just a little bit, so there's not as much of a stab. It's still got its punch, but there's a little less stab every time I hit one of those. Yeah. And so now let's make it sound interesting. So I want to go into harmonics, and the first thing I want to try is air flavor, because air flavor can do some wonders to your sounds. I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with this, but this is one of the first places that I go. This and some type of modulation like a phaser or a chorus. If I want something to sound like, if something's a little traditional sounding, which, the Jura synth is a Juno, and the Juno is, it's been widely used in music production since the 80s. So if I'm wrong, the late 70s, but I believe it's the 80s. Like, so, everyone has heard all the Juno sounds. So you really want to warp those, make them funky. So air flavor. And I'm going to go through the presets. Now that's kind of cool. There we go. We'll take down the amount of it. And this is the type of sound that you could automate. Like you could go in and record automation on this, hit this, turn it off, and then slowly introduce it. Those are things that you can do when you really want to give your sound some extra flavor. I'm just going to leave it on for this purpose. And now I'm going to go and add a phaser. Like I talked about, modulation. Get real funky. Got it on the phase 90 setting. Another one you could automate. Automate the mix. See, now that's funky sounding. Now let's hear it in the context. All right, let me go in and I'm gonna do one more thing that I like to do with all of my pad sounds, guitar chords, which is add an auto pan, right? And we're gonna either do quarter note or eighth note auto panning. So more modulation, 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 modulation. I use the auto pan synth. Let me solo this so you guys can hear the effect. So here's the sound. Here it is with the auto pan. Now I never use it at 100% wet. In fact, I'm usually around 30 to 35%. And I'm gonna take this to eighth note, actually. That's cool. So here it is in the mix. Let's do the same thing to this bass. The first thing that I feel like I need to do with the bass is I'm gonna get the air kill EQ, which this is kind of like a filter with a little bit more control, because it's just gonna allow me to go up to this high and chop it out. And now I'm gonna come over to the mids and I'm gonna boost the mids a little bit. And now I'm gonna go down and change my bass frequency. It's at 200 hertz. I'm gonna change it to like 80 hertz, around there. And I'm gonna give it a little bump. So here it is without. See, it sounds thin and it doesn't really sound bassy, but now it's really gonna occupy the bass frequencies in the mix. So let's hear it in the mix. And if we go in here and take this off, see, it was a little less present when we didn't have the kill EQ on. So that's I love that. And especially for bass and for chopping off the low frequencies from like guitars, you get rid of everything below 200. You get rid. Yeah, it's a handy feature, and it doesn't add any color to the sound from what I can tell. So now I'm gonna give it some compression. And I like to use either the bus compressor or the vintage compressor. I think I'm going to use the bus this time. And we'll start with a preset for this one. And I kind of like that already. I might turn on some of the old school. Let's tweak the threshold a bit. That seems to be the spot right there. All right, now we're gonna add some kind of distortion, and I'm not sure which one yet. So we'll go to harmonics. There's tube driver. There's also distortion amp, which I've never used. Let's hear this in the mix. Okay, it's too much. Nah, I don't want to use that plugin. That's a little bit much. Air distortion's a little better. Let's take down the mix. Yeah, this is nice. Yeah, there we go, some drive. Take the mix down just a bit. Now let's hear it in the mix. Now there's another thing I like to do with bass tracks, which is at the end put a chorus on it, but I'm not sure if I want that for this, so I'm just going to use the simple chorus, the air chorus. Cool, and now I'm going to do something else that I like to do. People kind of talk about how these new MPCs output things, and since I'm not exporting this today, I'm gonna put this on output 1, 2, the main output. We're gonna go over here, and I'm gonna play the track, and I'm gonna put on the vintage setting. So let's hear it without. And so that gives it a sort of old school flavor. I'm not exactly sure what it's doing. I'm sure it's using like filtering, EQ, and maybe some compression to kind of emulate what the MPC 60's export sounded like. Now, a quick note, if you like the way that I work with the MPC is after this was done, let's say I was going to continue using this for something, I would actually go over here. So let's get rid of this. The first thing I'd do is go to this trap kit, and then I'd go over here, and then I'd hit explode track. And what exploding the track is doing, it's, you know, I created a drum track, and it's got all the drums on one. This is going to give every individual drum that I used its own track. So the kick, the snare, each hi-hat, all of the different like percussion sounds and that, whatever you want to call that. It's going to put all those on individual tracks. So that means when I bounce this out, I'm going to bounce out like the stems. It's not going to have the stereo output channels effects on it. So this MPC 60 is not going to be on there. So what I usually do is I will go and create a subgroup for the drums and things like that, and I'll put it on those. Or I'll go on every individual drum and put it on those, depending on what I'm doing. And that's how you can have this effect come over with you. I don't really do it to like guitars, bass, synths, and stuff like that. I don't think I've ever done that. But that if you really like the way that your synth sounds, so let's go over here. Let's switch to the synth track. See, now I've got individual groups. I got my bass. Let's play the bass. Let's solo it. And it's got that MPC 60 on it. Let's turn it off. See, it's a lot crunchier and it hits a little harder. So if you wanted to export it with that and you're out of tracks, there's different ways that you could do that. You know, one way is you could convert this bass track to a sample. And where do I go to do that? I've never actually had to do that yet with this software. So progressions, not gonna be that one. Duplicate track with events. I don't even know how to convert this track to a sample on here because I've never done it. I haven't done it yet. I'll have to go and look, but you can convert this to a sample. I've just never done that with MPC 3.0. And a lot of people like to do that. I was watching something from Charlie Puth actually, and I found out that he does not like to work with MIDI. He likes to bounce everything, turn it into audio, and then just work with the audio file, which is what I do over in Logic. It's not from a preference for me. It's just because when you bounce everything down out of the MPC and you take it into a DAW, it's not going to bounce out MIDI. It's going to bounce out audio, and you're just going to use it as audio. And I'll chop up the audio, manipulate the audio over in Logic for my final project. But yeah, another option that you have is to convert this into a sample. I'm good with this. All right, so everything is off now, and here we go. All right, that's the track. Hopefully that showed you guys that all you really need is the MPC One or Live or X. You don't need anything else necessarily to make your beats or your songs these days, which is pretty amazing because the reason that I'm used to working the way that I'm used to working is when I started using the MPC, 2.0 was a lot less user friendly. It wasn't the worst. It's pretty good. Like I could go back and use it and I could make something with it. But like now, for instance, let's go over here. Oops, wrong spot. Let's go over here. And I can actually mess with all of the MIDI, all of this in a linear fashion and create a song this way. Now, I'm going to be real with you. This is a little clunky for me, the way that it's implemented, just because like I've got to go over and choose the way to edit everything like that. If I want to erase, clear, trim, transpose, delete bars. And I'm just used to working with Logic or working with Beatmaker 3 on my iPad Pro, where it's an iPad Pro, so the screen is really, really responsive. And that's got a similar kind of feel to how you work with the MIDI and with the tracks on here. But, I mean, it's pretty cool that I could just, go on here to grid. And then now I'm on this track here. And I can get rid of this if I want to. Hit erase, get rid of it. Boom, that's gone. No, I'm going to undo that. I don't want to do any of that. I can move it all around. No, let's undo that too. If I want to, I can zoom in. I can select a bunch of stuff, select it all. Come on now. There we go. So if I want, I can select all of that. And then I could delete it all at once, undo that. You get the idea. You don't need anything else. And if you haven't ever worked with anything else and you learn to do your arranging and everything on the MPC, it's going to be a lot easier for you to work all in the box than it is for me. Because for me, I'm used to just dumping everything, bouncing it, and then opening it up in Logic and working that way. But I know how to use Logic, and I knew how to use Logic before I used an MPC ever. And Logic worked for me because I came from, the first ways that I recorded music were with a cassette machine like this back in the early 2000s. I think 2000 was when I bought my first cassette machine, and before that it was like splicing tape loops. And then something like the Tascam Model 12, I had like an older version of this with its multi-track feature. So Logic was like a natural progression. And then I messed with GarageBand and I outgrew it, and I had to upgrade to Logic. I messed with Pro Tools somewhere in there, but I'm a person who comes from like a traditional linear way of making music, and I was playing instruments. So I was recording drums myself and then tracking bass over that and then guitar over that, vocals, and then overdubs, like a traditional way of making music. So for me, learning to make music in the way it's made on an MPC, there were a lot of growing pains. But if you're just getting started out, if you have barely any experience, if you're a beat maker, if you're an electronic music producer, this is all you need. And you don't even need anything outside the stock plugins. Now, there's a caveat. The Jura synth does not come with the MPC One Plus, but when you buy it, at least when I bought it, they give you one free premium plugin, and the Jura was the one that I chose. And I think that's the only one that I've ever bought, because I tend to buy plugins, like I like Waves, and I subscribe to the Universal Audio monthly subscription thing. So I tend to use most of my plugins over there in the DAW, as opposed to getting more in the MPC One Plus when I know that 99% of the time I'm going to bounce out stems and finish it over there. But that might not be something that you're comfortable doing, and learning the MPC One Plus is not hard. And as you saw, you can do a lot. Like, you can clean up your tracks. Like, nowadays, I barely need to do any mixing by the time I get over to Logic. And Logic is mostly for arranging. And then the mixing that I do is, like, I'll create a drum room for ambiance, and I'll create a guitar room over there. I'll use like the Abbey Road rooms to get like room reflections, and I'll use compressors to glue everything together. Maybe I'll hear something and I'm like, this needs this. I need a slide guitar here. So I'll add a slide guitar over in Logic, something like that. But I'm not doing a lot of extensive EQing or anything over there, because I get it all done in the MPC One Plus, and I'm more or less committed to those sounds by the time I get into the DAW. So yeah, you could do it all with this. Don't be discouraged. It's not difficult. Don't think you're going to need to invest in a lot of other things. Like, I have a keyboard, two keyboards actually. I chose not to use them for this video because I wanted to show that you could just use the pads. That you can, and if you don't know, how to put together sounds, you can lock it into a scale. I'm going to go back to the main grid here, and this is the last thing. You hit this icon over here, just like I did to go to chromatic. You can go to chords, and it'll play chords for you. Like, why is that not playing? It's muted. Well, that's the tube synth, so that's a bad example. Let's go to the Jura. Okay, I can switch that to chords. It's in chords. C major. I can go to minor, natural minor, harmonic minor. whatever. You can do whatever you want. Does that make sense? But yeah, don't be discouraged, and yeah, you don't need anything else but the MPC One Plus. See you guys next time. Don't forget to check out the daily beats that I was making a couple weeks ago. There's a bunch of those up. I'm gonna get back to making those daily beats. Also, I have a record that I released. You can check that out. It's linked in the description. The main track, the title track, Down to Size, was actually made here on the channel. So if you want to support me, order one of those vinyls. It's a good way to convince me to make more vinyl. But yeah, peace.